Hi everybody. So I'm here and I thought while I would do this, I would talk a little bit about light. So a couple things. So melatonin rises about 4 hours before we go to bed, and this tells the pancreas to the pancreas receptor actually to stop producing insulin to get ready for rest and repair stage. And so if you're eating a late night meal, you're actually disrupting that process, and you're, instead of allowing your body to go into rest and digest mode, rest and repair mode, you're actually creating an environment where your food won't be properly digested, and then your body will have to work on digestion instead of rest and repair. So you're not going to be nourishing your body in the way that you should. So you want to make sure that you practice time restricted eating and don't eat a late meal, and certainly don't eat a snack after your late meal or your last meal, because that will not only disrupt melatonin, but it'll disrupt your circadian rhythm as well. So your organs in your bodies also adapt based on what time frame it is. So I have these new taps, by the way, and they said in the marketing that you would just straighten them out and they would stay straight, and that you could just use that. So I could tape them, but I'd have to tape them every day as I empty my buckets here. So instead, sorry, the screen kind of went funky. What I've done is, for now, I'm just letting it drip into the pail, and I'll have to fix something a little bit better. So I'm just kind of looking over my shoulder here to make sure that everything is dripping where it should. And then I'll move on to the next bucket. Okay, so I've got those two taps there. So yeah, that's your last meal is probably one of your more important ones for the day, because it sets your body up for rest and digest mode. Oh, that's cool. So it's just since yesterday. So there's, what, half a gallon there, maybe, from one tap. So apparently when I push that button, it does a screenshot. So my apologies. I'm still learning about this YouTube Live. So some taps are better than others. Oh, interesting. So that one, for some reason, there's no tap in that one. I must have forgotten. And so the tree's wet, and there's hardly anything in here. Oh, I'll have to go set another tap in here. Luckily, it's one of the first days of the syrup running, so it's not like I'm missing out too much yet. So anyways, make sure that last meal is, 3 to 4 hours at least before you plan to go to bed. And so what happens is, if you don't do that, not only does that disrupt the pancreas receptors from producing insulin, but it's also going to raise your blood sugar. And of course, high blood sugar equals a smaller brain and leads to diabetes, which most Americans have or will have in the next few years. So not a good situation by any means. All right. So I need to get better set up here with my maple trees, and I only have a fraction of them tapped so far. But it takes a lot of work. So it's fun though. So leptin resistance is similar to insulin resistance. So it takes more leptin, and that is to basically let your body feel satiated. And let's see, that bucket's full. This one's not being used right here. Okay. And so when you lose weight, you have less energy and are hungrier, because your body responds accordingly, because it wants you to save that body fat, and it wants to reduce the cellular energy at first, because it thinks that you're need to be prepared for famine. Here's a pretty nice bucket of sap right here. So that's got quite a lot of sap there. Well, it's not actually sap, it's just water, maple water. So it's low glycemic, by the way, if you've never done maple. Here's a nice one. You can watch that one dripping in there. It's low glycemic and it's full of minerals, so I'm gonna have a nice feast of it. Actually, what I can do is take this and switch this out. And I don't think there's enough to worry about it overnight, so I probably don't even need to empty these right now. I can probably do it in the morning. Ooh, that's pretty heavy, actually. All right, so we covered that, and then let's discuss the cellular causes of leptin resistance. And so there's other causes too, but inflammation or too much leptin or lipid metabolites can cause leptoreceptin resistance. Maybe what I'll do is I'll pour some in here and then take that bucket in. That'll probably make more sense. So one way you can help with that is you can add, first of all, your leaky gut syndrome, which is where your endothelial cells get permeable from having eating things like gluten or things that are causing gut inflammation. And when you have that leaky gut, things that aren't meant to go in the bloodstream end up in the bloodstream. And so in that case, you can use bone broth and fermentable fiber to recreate your gut lining to be healthy. That's what I did, and I'm doing a lot better now. So I went on a bone broth diet for 21 days to reset my gut and got rid of my irritable bowel syndrome and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And now I'm back to normal, actually better than I've ever been in my adult life and known life. So that's pretty cool. And so the light in which you eat is also important. So think about it this way. The plants and foods that you eat, if they're produced in unnatural light or you buy them in unnatural light in the store and you're consuming them in unnatural light like LED lights, which have a lot of flicker and a lot of blue light in the spectrum, then that will make them less healthy and it'll signal free radicals from the non-native EMF and non-native light from the LEDs, and the free radicals will create inflammation. And so make sure that you're, hunting, fishing, gathering, growing, and trapping all the food that you can, and, gathering as many wild plants as possible. And also think about it from a low dopamine problem as well. It's pretty cool. Oh, I guess it is still filming, so it acted like it was done there. So it's probably not my best video with doing other work as I was traveling around. But basically, I was going to say another thing that's important is remembering that to limit your, exposure to non-natural light, because that creates low dopamine. The more blue light we have, especially in the evening, then that is disrupting our natural circadian rhythm, which is lowering our dopamine problem, and it leads to a lot of addiction in the United States. And if you're thinking of just adding melatonin to your diet as far as a supplement, that's not necessarily a good thing to do either, because what happens is it disrupts the natural melatonin pathways, and it can create a negative feedback loop where your body thinks it's getting the proper amount, or maybe it's getting too much of something that's not natural. So your body has everything that it needs to create melatonin if you just get it in the sun in the proper times of the day. And if you work indoors, just step out for a sun break every 5 minutes, or every hour for 5 minutes instead of a smoke break. Just take a sun break. And so that'll help you. You can practice some deep breathing or do some meditation for 5 minutes and just get in the sun and face the sun. So that's really important. A lot of people are afraid of the sun because they get taught that sun creates melanomas, but actually blue light stimulates melanoma much more than the natural sun does, especially if you're not in a peak sun environment near the equator or in the summertime. And let's talk a little bit about 1G, 2G, 3G, even all the way up to 5G. So 1 to 3G cause cancer in nocturnal animals, and 5G should be listed as a carcinogenic from the World Health Organization. It's going to impact the entire world, and it causes circadian radiation, and it destroys the photoreceptors in our eyes, and they are different depending on where the 5G is located. They have different power densities based upon how close they need to have the towers in regards to things like high rises and that kind of thing. So, for example, a place like New York City, they are putting them, maybe every half block. There might be several dense systems set up with antennas to have that 5G work, and that power density